Welcome to Mech Boy Ollie's workshop, where today we're going to be answering the question, in the age of 3D printing, is there still a place for good old-fashioned scratch building? Now here on the left, as well as being a little bit of leftovers from some Asian food, we have a whole bunch of scratch building pieces. Over here we've got a special package from my friend over at Twisted Prints. The brief was, print me something orky. We'll be opening this up a little bit later and seeing how it compares to what we can make. The idea is to build a scratch-built Stompa. I'm also going to be having some help from Hive Queen Meg, who today is War Boss Meg.
Let's get building.
Let's get building. Cup of tea in hand, we set about the first part of our epic journey of building the Stompa, which was getting some measurements from a legitimate Stompa, which we helpfully found on Reddit. By the way, hi, it's me, Ollie from the future. Yes, this video took rather a lot longer than I was anticipating, as you probably saw if you've been keeping track of the channel for a while. And so my hair fell off and my beard grew out. I'm a continuity director's worst nightmare. Anyway, it turns out that these shin noodle pots are almost exactly the right size for the main body, so we connected two of them with a loo roll. Next up, Warboss Meg got all kinds of crafty with tearing up newspaper and applying it to the body with Mod Podge. Meanwhile, I was on duty for the head, which I had an ingenious idea to make out of this other cup noodle pot. Now first things first, while I'm happy with the end result, I cannot recommend cup noodles for the heads of Stompas. The reason for this is because they are made out of a sort of plastic that is absolutely terrible to work with. I cut about halfway down and then used what was once the top of the pot to make some orky jaws, cutting those sort of teeth out of the plastic. It's even got this cool sort of corrugated bit at the bottom. The bottom of the pot becomes the top of the Stompa's head, and will sit on a small foam platform in the middle of the jaws. A bit of sandpapering to help the painting stage later, and we also stuck on some googly eyes, partially because it looks hilarious, but also to give us an idea as to where the eye holes are going to go later. Head secure, I decided to tackle the weapons. So I started work on his Super Gatler, which was, without exaggeration, the most painful model building experience of my entire life. I was trying to get 8 straws to stick together for the barrels, around a central piece of plastic that refused to bond regardless of how much super glue I applied, filing I did in order to give it a rough surface, or prayers to the dark gods that I made. After a few failed attempts, I took a pause to address how we would attach this to the body, cutting the top of a plastic bottle, and then cutting an additional hole where the Super Gatler is going to slide out of the side. After what felt like an eternity, I finally managed to get the barrels to stick. Meg was channeling all the mech cunning of Gork and Mork into forming random cardboard squares into the main body of the Stompa.
If it looks terrible, then it becomes terrain.
He's always watching.
Buoyed by my efforts on the Super Gatler, I turned my attention to his melee arm. This was going to be formed from an old biro slotted into a hole cut in an old felt tip pen housing. Looking back over the footage, I can see Meg did all the cool looking artistic bits, while I spent most of my time wrestling with my terrible material choices. Warboss Meg demands better of her grot underling, clearly. One of the tasks left to me was cutting some holes into her handiwork to unceremoniously shove the arms into. First the melee arm and then the Gatler, along with a freshly crafted and papier-mâché housing for it to sit in. Now for his melee arm, you've heard of choppers, you've probably heard of huge choppers, you maybe even have heard of dead huge choppers, but have you ever heard of a mega chopper? Well, I mean, if you read the Stompa datasheet, then yes, but here we go, I'm building a mega chopper. I briefly considered building this out of cardboard before realizing I lacked both the talent and the patience to pull this off, so there's only one thing for it. To the war computer! After a bit of fiddling around with dials and knobs on Adobe Illustrator, I came up with a chainsaw design I thought I could trace onto plasticard, as well as this little orc fetish. And before you ask, no, not the kind that people who like the orc cheerleaders in Blood Bowl are into. The chainsaw blade was cut out and sandwiched into a piece of foam before the whole arm was bulked out and secured with some cardboard and bonus straws representing cabling. They've got to transmit some sort of power throughout this thing. Even if it's just the power of the Great War! Big war energy. The chainsaw itself was begreebled, which I'm going to coin if that phrase doesn't already exist, and it was then secured into place. It was at this point that we have to take a moment of silence for his googly eyes, which were taken off and replaced with some slits, more like the regular Games Workshop Stompa. And now it's time for some foam carving. First, tracing the shape of the feet onto a cube of foam before cutting them out and carving the feet into roughly the right shape. Did you know that Stompers have feet? I assumed they would be covered by the skirt, but no, they've definitely got feet. That just left a back gallery / exhaust area. We also inserted some chimneys and banner poles into it, made up of bits of old pens. So, after a full day's work, here is our Stomper all ready for a coat of paint. But before that, let's play What's in the Box? Let's open this up.
I think you might have missed 2 bits.
Oh, missed 2 bits. Fermenting orc, God knows what orc brewing stuff.
Stew.
We've got boiling. And we've got a variety of little bitters and bobbers for like a little ladder. Obviously going to go for flipping tab. If you're in need of any 3D printing for war games like Warhammer 40,000, check out Twisted Prints, link in the description down below. Back to our Stomper, and for painting we decided to go with a colour scheme of black, red and silver. There's also a few fun little bits like hazard stripes and some glowy green lights, which are actually the googly eyes from earlier that have just been sprayed over. With a few more sprays of a couple of other colours, our Stomper is complete and ready to stand as a totem of Gork and Mork in the middle of the battlefield. So, is there a place for scratch building in the age of 3D printing? While the quality and fidelity of stuff you can get out of 3D printing is amazing nowadays, I make absolutely no attempt to say that what I've made here is better than what you can do with a 3D printer. But what I will say is that our version has absolutely tons of character and nobody in the world is going to have one quite like it. Every time that this Stomper appears in one of our battles, I know that we'll both have a massive smile on our faces and we'll probably make some silly noises as it crumps across the battlefield too. Any other noises that he makes?
Boom, 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 boom.
Do you think he's better than the Games Workshop one?
Always, because we have fun.
Yeah. Do you think that people in the comments will think that he's better than the Games
No.
Workshop one?
Maybe.
You decide. Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you've enjoyed our scratch-built Stomper video. If you have, please like it and subscribe to Hobby with Ollie for more videos like this. If you want to share your own tales of any kind of hobbying, please feel free to join the Hobby with Ollie Discord community from the link in the description down below. There's an amazing group of hobbyists in there. The people from the Discord also tend to be pretty lively in the Hobby with Ollie live streams here on YouTube every Tuesday at 7:30 PM UK time. So feel free to come along if that sounds like your cup of tea. There are also copious cups of tea and biscuits consumed. Until then, my name has been Ollie, this has been my hobby, and we'll see you next time.